Overtime. Sponsored by Wendy's. They got you for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between. High school sports, we've got it covered. Overtime starts now.
Hello and welcome to Overtime, our weekly look at high school sports in the state line. I'm Scott Leber.
And I'm David Greenberg. This week we'll wrap up the fall sports season with a look back at some great cross-country efforts, and you'll meet one of the more amazing athletes in the state line, East High School's Ben Bathje.
In our Glory Days segment, we rewind to Boylan's back-to-back state championship teams in 2010 and 2011, and we'll reveal the conference champions in our Battle of the Stadiums contest.
We're going to start things off with the big news from this week. Administrators and athletic directors from the NIC 10 conference have decided to put the boys and girls basketball seasons on hold. They're following the recommendations of the governor, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and the State Board of Education. They believe it's too risky to play high school basketball games right now with COVID cases surging. They say the priority is the safety of the kids and the coaches.
They're also following the advice of their insurance carriers who claim the school districts could be in a position of liability for violating the Department of Public Health's mitigation standards. Here's District 205 Athletic Director Matt Parker addressing that in a phone interview this week.
Well, that's a big concern that we heard from our insurance provider and our legal team repeatedly, that was a possibility, that insurance would not be provided, liability would not be provided if schools were to move forward with basketball or any sport that is on the the high risk IDPH guidelines category.
Obviously, a lot of kids in District 205 who are basketball players are going to be disappointed at this news. What could you say to them right now that perhaps would help them get through this disappointment?
It's really hard to explain to young people, especially when everyone's aware that surrounding states are moving forward with basketball, as well as local club teams are playing out of state. And so there's opportunities that are occurring, and so how do you explain to young people that those opportunities can't occur here? That's very difficult. Our main priority now is to try to figure out a way to keep our student athletes engaged, even at that level one availability in terms of restrictions, to be able to strengthen condition, to be able to condition, to be able to work on skill work, because mental health is extremely important. Physical activity is extremely important to overall mental and physical health, and keeping students engaged is very important to their mental health as well. The problem becomes, how does that weigh against the risk of a global pandemic?
The NIC 10 athletic directors are hopeful of having a modified season. Also this week, the Big Northern Conference said it will not be holding conference seasons in boys and girls basketball.
Fall sports season came to a close this past week. Cross country was the final sport to wrap up. Last Saturday, the 3A sectional meet was held at Lyons Township. One of the runners was Guilford sophomore Michelle Gasman. A couple weeks ago, she was the NIC 10 individual champion. She followed that up with a come-from-behind victory at regionals, but the competition in this sectional was really ramped up. Gasman wasn't able to catch up to those lead runners. She finished in 24th place. A little behind her were a pair of Hononegah runners, Lauren Johnston and Indico Starrett. Hononegah finished in 11th place as a team. Gasman was happy to get another year of sectional experience under her belt.
It feels good. I'm glad that I got to come out here today and run with all these other girls. I recognize them a lot from last year and a few years before, so it's good to come out and see them.
Now for the boys' race. As usual, things started neck and neck for these guys. Just check out this turn from the first lap. Too hard to tell who anybody is right there. Really, really close. Anyways, as they eventually do, they spread out, and a few runners separated themselves from the pack. The top local finisher was Guilford's Juan Del Real. He took 33rd place. A little further back was Auburn's Peter Maculin in 74th place. After the race, Del Real said, yeah, he saved his best for last.
This is my best race I've ever ran before. I'm pretty sure I only did it because I was trying to keep up with everybody else. But yeah, it was really fun. This feels really good. I ended the season perfectly. I couldn't have asked for a better ending.
Well, there was more cross-country action in Class 1A last Saturday at the Seneca Sectional. The state line was well represented at the Seneca Sectional, with teams from Rockford Christian, Oregon, Winnebago, Byron, and Eastland competing, plus several individuals, including Rockford Lutheran's Lauren Spangler. The big story was Winnebago. They were at full strength. 3 runners and coaches Janet and Joe Erb had completed their quarantine. The girls' race was run in 4 heats. The first heat had every team's top runner. For Winnebago, that's senior Natalia Martino. As she's done all year, she dominated, winning by more than 14 seconds. In the next heat, Winnebago got a 1-2 finish from Grace Erb and Kaylee Woolery. In the third heat, it was another 1-2 finish by Bago's Marissa Rogan-Sack and Katie Erb. And the fourth heat saw Bago's Renee Rittmeyer and Sophia Martino finish 1-2. Overall, Winnebago took the top 5 spots in the team competition, and the Indians placed 7 runners in the top 16 overall to run away with the championship.
I was able to get out in front and just keep that spot, so I was very happy with that.
We did talk about they had an opportunity to put on a show because they're so deep, and they did that. So it was just really special group of kids.
4 local teams competed in the boys' race: Dupac, Byron, Lutheran, and Rockford Christian. Rockford Christian dominated at the regional last week. The Royal Lions were impressive again. Senior D'Artagnan Beaver finished second in the first heat and second overall. Senior Stephen Thomas won the second heat and finished 8th overall. Rockford Christian placed 5 runners in the top 24 to win the sectional championship.
Today, this course, we know the hills are insane, so it's really about who's really going to go out there and hurt more. I had a great day. I loved it.
Coming up next, we'll meet a Rockford East athlete who's willing to try any sport at any time.
And later in our Glory Days segment, we look at not 1 but 2 state championship Boylan football teams. Oh, we've covered a lot of athletes, but we ran into one this fall unlike any we've encountered before.
His name's Ben Bathje, and he's quite the jack of all trades. For a lot of high school students, finding activities to get involved in can be difficult. If you're looking to get any information on what to join, just ask Rockford East Junior Ben Bathje. He's done just about all of them.
I think you can't settle for one particular thing. I think you just need to open yourself to new experiences and trying different things and having fun with it.
Here's a list of all the activities he does: golf, swimming, cross country, track and field, and bass fishing.
My bass fishing pole.
And because of the pandemic rescheduling certain sports, he's adding football to that list.
Bring it on down!
Which I'm not very excited about because I've never wanted my kids to play football, being the nervous mom.
Putting aside his mother's concerns, the addition of football makes Bathje a 6-sport athlete.
I don't think anybody's ever been a 6-sport athlete before, so thought it'd be kind of cool to say I did 6 sports my junior year.
We've always wanted them all to be involved in everything, and just to be able to get as much out of school or different activities, and he's always enjoyed it.
As you can probably imagine, he's pretty outgoing.
I was a very energetic kid.
He's the youngest of 3 boys. He's always wanted to be older than what he is.
I'm a bit of an extrovert. I like people, to say the least. I'm a very social person.
Of all his extracurriculars, golf is his favorite.
It's mentally harder, but it's way more fun. Running just makes you really tired. And golf, it's like a new challenge, mental and the technique and physical every hole. So that's what I like about it.
It's his passion, drive, and competitiveness that motivate him to work hard.
I think it's a lot of internal, seeing my future, what my possible goals can be, and just putting my mind to my goals and trying to work as hard as I can to accomplish that.
There's one specific goal he has in mind.
I want to play golf at the D1 level, which is really why I work so hard in school. I have straight A's through all of high school right now, and hopefully that'll carry me a bit to get the golf scholarship.
When he's not running from field to course and course to pool and pool back to field, he actually has another passion that helps him clear his mind.
Magic definitely helps me relax, being able to just work on different magic tricks and play around with some cards.
He started at the age of 11.
When I started, I never ever expected it to kind of turn into a high school job. And that's really what it's been over the past 4 years, is a bit of a job, but I don't look at it as a job because it's fun. It's what I love to do.
It's a job that pays him handsomely. Using his magic money, he was able to buy himself a new set of golf clubs.
I think at first everyone thought it was just a phase, because every kid goes through like a magic phase. And then it probably wasn't 2 or 3 years until I got actually pretty good.
He's made a ton of memories stumping some local public figures.
I've done some local celebrities like the mayor or Miles Nielsen going on the news back in December. That was really cool, being able to do the morning show. There's been a lot of different cool Rockford people. I've done it to almost every news anchor, which is fun.
And he was about to stump another one. Of course, I had to have him perform a few tricks for me.
All right, take out any one for me. That one right there. Sweet, show the camera. I do not want to see it. I have a Sharpie here.
Okay.
Can you just sign your name on the face side, the number side of that?
Yes.
And you can show them when you're finished.
All right. I've got my card.
All right. I'll take the card.
All right.
I can see it now. It's fine.
Okay.
We'll take the card. It is the 9 of clubs with David written on it.
Right.
Would you put this card in your mouth?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll fold it up.
Okay.
That'll make it a bit easier. So we'll fold it into fourths.
Okay.
All you have to do is just bite down on it. Yep, perfect. You're taking the 9 of clubs with David on it. I'm going to take the Queen of Hearts, and I'm just going to write my name right up top here.
Okay.
See that? Ben, right up top.
Yep.
You have the 9 of clubs. I have the Queen of Hearts. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the Queen, and I am going to fold the Queen up into fourths.
Okay.
Now, you can push it all the way in. What? 1, 2, 3. Oops, dropped it. When that happens, so when I get the 9 of clubs.
Oh my God.
And you get.
With the Ben. What in the world? No way. I'll tell you what, I've seen that over and over and over again. I have no idea how he did that trick.
It was very, very impressive. Ben is quite the character.
Yes, he is.
Coming up next, the 2 years that Boylan made darn sure everyone remembered the Titans. At one point in the early 2000s, Boylan's football team had a 39-game winning streak. Sandwiched in there were 2 state championships. We'll look back at those teams in our Glory Days segment. And the first championship game in 2010 was in Class 6A. The undefeated Titans played Aurora Marmion. Boylan fumbled on its first possession, setting up an Aurora Marmion touchdown. But from there, the Titans kicked it into gear. They scored touchdowns on their next 4 possessions. Jackson Meister hauled in that 54-yard touchdown pass from Lamont Toney for one of those touchdowns. Tyrese Thomas rushed 24 yards for that touchdown. The Titans led 27-19 at halftime. They then outscored Marmion 21-0 in the second half for a resounding 48-19 win. Thomas rushed for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. Frank Semino also ran for 2 touchdowns. Safety Chris Miller had 13 tackles. And oh yeah, there was that junior defensive lineman named Dean Lowry. He helped the Titans rack up 5 sacks in the school's first state championship. In 2011, the Titans were back in Champaign, playing this time for the 7A championship against the 2-time defending 7A champs, Wheaton Warrenville South. The Titans started strong. Quarterback Lamont Toney, with 1 year of state experience already under his belt, ripped off a 72-yard touchdown run on Boylan's first play from scrimmage for a 7-0 lead. Former Illinois State kicker Sean Slattery then booted a pair of field goals on the Titans' next 2 possessions. Boylan led 13-0 at halftime. Wheaton Warrenville South closed the gap to 13-7 in the third quarter when future Northwestern standout Dan Vitale scored on a 24-yard touchdown run. But the Titans struck back with a big play early in the fourth quarter. Toney fired to Jackson Meister, who came up with a 79-yard catch and run. Boylan led 21-7. The Titans hung on to win by the final of 21-14. Dean Lowry had 2 tackles for loss in that game. DJ Zimmerman led the Titans with 9 tackles.
I don't think they have words for this type of feeling, but I'd sure like to bottle it. And so proud of our kids.
Great feeling. I mean, repeating is, you can't do anything better than that. I mean, we just worked hard through the offseason. Knew we had to build our own legacy, and we came up hard.
Joining me now is the head coach of those 2 Boylan teams, Dan Opino. And Dan, those teams have seemed to have all the components. They have playmakers on offense, on defense, and then a great kicker in Sean Slattery. I can't find anything that was lacking. What was the weakness?
it's interesting. I think you're looking at the outcome and seeing how well things worked out for us. But after we got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs in 2009, we really kind of put that unhappiness that we as a staff had into our kids, and kind of challenged them with that all off season. I remember at the end of our summer conditioning program, one of the college kids that we hired to come back and work with us said, "Coach, how are you going to keep the program from declining? Because this group here isn't going to do better than 6-3 or 7-2." And I remember we made sure we shared those opinions with our senior class, and they really took it with a chip on their shoulder and worked super hard to prove everybody wrong. And I think that kind of made the difference in our program, because we had a really good setup in terms of our strength training, in terms of the continuity of our offense and defense, but we just didn't have 100% buy-in for a year-long program, We were probably at about 55-60% of the kids who were just all in. And then in 2010, that number probably nudged up closer to about 85-90% of the kids.
Did those two teams have different identities and different personalities, or were they pretty much identical?
They both kind of had that chip on their shoulder a little bit. The 2010 kids wanted to prove that, they weren't going to go down in terms of winning and stuff and keeping the streak alive. And then the 2011 team also had a chip on their shoulder, because we won the 6A title in 2010, and people thought that was somehow lesser than a 7A title, and they wanted to prove people wrong in that way too. So I think both of them had a chip on their shoulder. The teams were a little bit different. I think the 2011 team was probably more talented, and I think the 2010 team was just a lot grittier.
In the second championship, you went up against a juggernaut in Wheaton-Warrenville South. Does that make that victory any sweeter?
It did, certainly, for the coaches, because we knew how good they were. I mean, they had beaten like East St. Louis and St. Rita and a couple of other powerhouses to get into that state championship team. And they were unbelievable on defense. They had a great special teams program, and they had a running back who wound up playing in the NFL. So, I mean, that was a pretty good team. We took a lot of pride in that victory.
Our thanks to Coach Pino for joining us with those insights. Well, coming up next, David Greenberg catches up to one of the fastest athletes around, Auburn cross-country runner Peter Maculin, for our Getting to Know You segment. Right now it's time for our overtime trivia question. What former running back holds the Nick 10 records for most rushing yards in a game and most rushing yards in a career? I'll have the answer after the break.
Once again, here's our overtime trivia question. What former running back holds the Nick 10 record for most rushing yards in a game and most rushing yards in a career?
The answer is Harlem's Brenton Shaw. He rushed for 450 yards in a game in 2016 against Belvedere, and he finished his career with 3,615 yards rushing. Well, if you follow cross country at all, you know Auburn's Peter Maculin is an outstanding runner.
Recently, I got to find out a few more things about him in our Getting to Know You segment.
Gee, that's a long question.
I know.
It's hard. That's a hard decision. Oh, yeah, I would love to run a marathon. Definitely, because usually in high school, it's hard to run marathons. Your body doesn't take it, especially with all the running from normal seasons. So I definitely like to run a marathon in college. And honestly, I hope that I can keep running through my entire life. Injuries or other acts of God notwithstanding, yeah, I'd love to be in like 80 and still running miles. Oh, when I was a kid, I was a fiend for Jurassic Park. I watched that movie over and over.
All right.
When I was a kid, I loved dinosaurs, and so to watch doesn't really matter. I enjoyed watching them, even if they were tearing people apart. It's great.
What's your favorite dinosaur?
Well, I gotta say, the Velociraptors are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Although they aren't really as big in the Jurassic Park movies.
Right.
But they're still pretty sick.
They're pretty cool, right? What if you were to compare the old Jurassic Park to the new Jurassic Park? Have you seen the new one? Have you seen both?
Yeah, I've seen the Jurassic World. Haven't seen the Fallen Kingdom yet.
Okay.
But obviously nothing beats the classics. But the new ones aren't terrible.
Right.
My favorite holiday has got to be Christmas. It's festive out. You get to stay inside. You get to have time with family, and you get free stuff.
That's right. Yeah, do you have what's the number one thing you want on your Christmas list this year?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Well, it's coming up. You got to start thinking.
Oh no, my mom would be on me for that too. I don't know. Maybe Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah. All right. There you go. Well, you're welcome, Mom. We got him thinking ahead of time. For 12 weeks now, we've been on a quest to find out your favorite high school football stadiums in the state line. This past week, votes were cast for the conference champions. And the conference championship in the Nick 10 goes to Guilford Swanson Stadium. It received 55% of the votes to beat out Belvedere North's Milt Brown Stadium. Genoa Kingston won the big Northern Conference Championship over Stillman Valley with 57% of the vote.
The NUIC champion is Pecatonica Stadium. It got 59% of the vote to defeat Dakota. And our area champion is Rochelle, just edging out Rockford Christian 51% to 49%. Congratulations to all of our champions.
We'll be right back. Well, this has been our final overtime show for this fall.
We hope to be back in January or next spring, but we'll have to wait and see how this pandemic plays out and what sports are up and running. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed these past 12 weeks.
Enjoy your weekend.
Overtime. Sponsored by Wendy's. They got you for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between.